All right, so now we are going to talk about the camera assistant, the second camera assistant position. Just like we did with the first AC, we're going to talk about the second AC in a little bit of pre-production, beginning of the day, at the cart, end of day, camera prep, on the set, and then the wrap out. Okay, so those are the things we're going to cover right now. The second assistant. Okay, so you want to attend any production meetings. It's part of the class anyway, so you're going to attend all the production meetings. Review an expendables list. So we need to have a list of things that you need to use, right? So right now you're going to come in and you're going to find out we have some tape, and we have, we should have some Sharpies. We need dry erase markers, pens and pencils. There's some things that we need that we use all the time, right? So we're going to go through that and see if there's anything we need. Do we need any other colors of tape? Do we need any camera tape, gaff tape? Do we need Sharpies? Do we need dry erase markers? Dry erase markers we might actually need. So we're just looking for that kind of stuff, right? You want to attend the camera prep, which is part of the class anyway. Again, we're going to build this camera. The camera prep is basically when we test it all out and check it all. And for you, it might be you learning how to operate this camera and learning how to set it all up as well. You want to make sure you're asking questions and you know the camera package. There is no stupid question. All the questions are valid. You have to make sure you understand how to do this camera. We don't want to break it. We don't want to put it together incorrectly, so we're doing something wrong. So we're either damaging the camera or messing up kind of the menu settings. So make sure that you do ask questions. There is no stupid question. Make sure you have a call sheet. Those usually get emailed to you, so make sure that you're checking that. And when you get your call sheets, you are reading all the information and checking what scenes we're shooting, and also looking at the script to make sure you know what it is. You should read the whole script if you haven't read the script, and even if you have read it, even if you were part of the class last semester and you're here again, read the script again and make yourself familiar with what we are shooting. The camera prep. So we're checking all the SD cards, right? The SSD is kind of a solid state drive that you can record on. We record on SD cards. Same thing. You want to make sure that you're testing all of those, you're checking all of those. Put all the batteries on charge pretty early because we need to test all the batteries to make sure they all work, but they do need to charge up for us to do that, right? So we want to do that pretty early in the day. Make sure all the cases are labeled and they say what they're supposed to say. Our camera case should have labels on the top. And we'll go through all that so you understand what cases need to be labeled or if they need to be labeled. The whole idea is that you know what's in all the cases so that you can quickly and easily get to what you need. Pull tape for the first AC. So when the first AC is checking lenses and doing focus tests with the lenses, usually that's done with a tape measure, and you'll help them pull that tape measure so that they don't have to leave the camera. Sometimes we label the SD cards and the batteries. The SD cards have already been labeled. The batteries are not labeled, but we might do some kind of labeling kind of system so that way we know. It's an easy kind of indicator as to which batteries have been used and which haven't, right? When they all look the same and they all exactly the same, sometimes you'll put the wrong battery on. A lot of our batteries have a little button you can push that'll check the voltage to tell you whether it's got a good charge on it or not. But again, they all kind of look the same. So sometimes we will put little stickers or something on them so we can identify them. A lot of times in the industry, what we used to do is name them all. Like, one time it would be all different Star Wars characters, or it would be movie titles, or famous directors, or cartoon dogs like Scooby-Doo and whatever the dog Astro from the Jetsons and whatever. We would just name them whatever so that they had different names so that we could identify them easily. Check and clean filters and make tabs. We have a little filter tab that's a thing that's already been made, so you don't have to make those. We don't have very many filters. We have ND filters, neutral density filters, built into the camera, and then we have a polarizer that can go on for exterior shooting. And we don't have anything that's color or softening, so we don't use them a lot, but we do have the ability to be ready for that. Our matte box does take filtration. Anything else that the first AC might need help with, that's what you're there to do. Help them build the camera and all that good stuff during the prep. Making the slate label. So right here you can see on the slate it says flash forward. Director is David Goyer. Kramer Morgenthau is the ASC, is the director of photography. You want to look at our slate, make sure the labels look good. If we need to remake labels, we can do that, and that's your job to make sure that the slate labels are correctly done. Camera reports. So you should have camera reports ready to go. We have camera reports, and we have a clipboard where you would put them. The clipboard is actually right on the back of the slate, Velcro to it. So we'll show you all those. This is what a camera report looks like. There's a lot of information on the camera report that can be pre-filled out, right? So it's less for you to do when you use a new camera report on set. Like the title of the movie is never going to change. It's opening night 2, the whole show, right? The director, never going to change. Camera op, never going to change. The date will change a little bit, so you can't do much of that because we do go from one month to the next month to the next month. We are always on SD cards, so we can put that there. It would be a card type, so we would put SD. And then the rest of it, you have to wait till we actually shoot. So we'll show you those. But those are, you can have 10 or 15 of those already filled out so that you don't have to go back in and write that new information when we swap it out. Because when we swap it out, we're going to be ready to shoot in like seconds. We're ready to go. Beginning of the day. So when you show up, class starts at 9 o'clock. It is a great idea to show up a little bit early. 10 to 15 minutes would be perfect. 15 minutes would be outstanding. We are all there earlier, so it's not like you'll be waiting outside to get into the room. It's just a good practice to start the day in a nice, relaxed pace. When you come in, you're probably going to have to do your COVID setup, like your COVID clearance thing. Then you go put your stuff down, and then you start pulling the gear out, figuring out where you can stage it so that you can build it, and you start building the camera package with the first AC. The second AC has a lot of paperwork to do, so you keep track of the camera reports and you keep track of the logbook. So maybe you have to fill out that top information that we were just talking about on some more camera reports because maybe you only have 1 or 2 left and you want to make sure you're prepared. But you just get all that stuff ready. You definitely help with the build. Your first AC will establish kind of a routine as to what happens and when it happens, but you guys should be kind of following that routine, right? On the set, when we get to set and it's time to shoot, okay, you want to be listening for the DP's voice and the first AC's voice. Like if either of those two people are talking, you should be listening and figuring out what they're saying. The whole idea is that you are engaged and you're trying to be one step ahead, right? You're always thinking about the next shot, right? Be thinking about what's coming after the one we're doing right now and preparing yourself for that. You want to be ready to go at all times. Sometimes you're sitting and waiting for lighting to happen, but then as soon as it's ready to go, we're shooting like that. So the slate's got to be ready. If we just spent 25 minutes, 30 minutes lighting something, and then they like, okay, picture up, we're ready to go, and you have to write on that slate, that's going to be frustrating because you just had 25 or 30 minutes to get the shot written on the slate and get the slate all ready to go, and you weren't doing it. So you got to make sure stuff is ready to go. And anticipate the needs of what's going on. You'll get used to the tendencies of things that I like to shoot on, and now you can hear my German Shepherd taking a drink of water here. You'll get used to the tendencies of the lenses I like to use in certain situations and what the show calls for, right? The way we shoot is there's a certain style to what we're doing. And then you'll get used to how we build the camera and how I like to use it and how I like to have it set up. So just anticipate those needs. Your major responsibilities on set would be to slate each shot, right? That's a major responsibility. Make sure that it's legible, that you can read everything nice and clearly. The take is correct. You have the right camera listed on there, whether we're on A or B, whether we're interior or exterior, whether this is a sync shot or a MOS shot. An MOS shot is a shot without sound. So that's something that you're looking for. If the shot ever gets mislabeled, like if you have the wrong shot number and we shoot that, then you need to make sure that the ADs and script supervisor know that that's a mislabeled shot so that the editor knows that that's mislabeled so that that shot doesn't get lost in the shuffle, okay? But it shouldn't be labeled incorrectly. You want to make sure that there's light on the slate, that we can see it, right? So sometimes that requires a flashlight to illuminate it, and the first AC will make sure it's in focus. Finding your frame is also very important, right? If I'm setting up to operate a shot, I don't want to go like looking around for where you're putting the slate. The slate should appear in my frame right where I need it to be, in the right size, filling the whole frame, not being too close so that I can't read everything and I don't get the sticks. Because we need to see those sticks actually come down and clap, because that's how they sync up the sound with the picture. So we got to make sure the whole slate is in the shot, and we sync the sound, and we'll show you how to do all that on the training day. Okay, but it's your job to find my frame, not the other way around. Okay. The camera report, you'll see on this camera report on the slide, see how it's all filled out and it's got a bunch of information. It's got shot numbers. This is scene 116 that they're shooting. So shot 1 was 116. The next shot was 116A. Then there's 116C. They skipped B for some reason. Maybe they eliminated that shot. And then they went to D and E, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the information that you'll be filling out as we go along. As we start doing shots, you'll start filling that stuff in. You want to make sure you have the notes and the take information on every take. And it's a great place for us to glance at what we've been doing and how we've been doing it, right? You can even see on the side there, they're on a 100mm lens and they're using a neutral density number 3. Down further, they use a neutral density ND6. That's a little bit heavier. They go to a 150mm lens. Then they go to a 50mm lens. So you can see it's like giving them information that they could use, okay? It prevents you keeping track of how much time is left on the card. Will also prevent us rolling out, because at the beginning when you put in a new card in the camera, it's going to tell you at the top how many minutes you can actually record. And as you're recording the data on the camera reports, you can see you're actually writing down the times of how long the clip was. So it's like a running total, so that you can see, oh wait a second, that last take took 2.5 minutes. And we only have a minute left on this card. So if we shoot again, we're going to run out of time on this card. We should change cards now. Like, that's the kind of stuff we're looking for. Okay? And then sometimes they'll tell you when to circle a take. They'll tell you a circle take, and that means that's the take that we like the best. So you'll circle it on the camera report, and it helps the editor figure out which take they should start with when they go to post-production. Okay. You also keep a logbook. We have logbooks for you. That's what the inside of a logbook looks like. And for every single shot that we shoot, you're going to fill out every single box across the long way there for every single shot. You're going to figure out what the scene description is, the shot number. We're going to put down what lens we're on, what f-stop we used, our focus distance, if we had filters, how high our lens is off the ground, and film stock will be our ISO, like what ISO we were on. Okay, so you'll fill that out every single shot for the whole shoot that we do. Okay, and then another major responsibility is marking the actors. Like if you look at that picture that's right there below, you'll see there's a yellow tape mark down in the middle of all the 3 people there. Your job is to mark the actors, okay? So we use 1-inch colored paper tape to do it. You'll usually find a little rope of colored paper tape. I think we have 2 of them. There's an example of one off on the side there. And the principal actors, like our main actors, they're all assigned a color, which you need to remember for the entire semester, right? So anytime Maria's character comes to set, if she's the pink color of tape, she's using pink tape for this whole semester, right? And you have to keep track of that. You need to write it down on the logbook somewhere on the back or something, so that when they come to set, you can just reference it and go, oh, okay, that person gets this color of tape. And then if we have random kind of new people in a scene that they're just in that scene, or they're extras or whatever, we can mark them with any color of tape. But everybody should have a different color of tape within the scene. Like there should not be marks for 2 or 3 people that are all pink or all black or all white, because then they're going to get confused as to where they're supposed to go as to which mark. So if there are 4 actors in the scene, there should be 4 different colors of tape on the floor. Okay? So we'll go through that. If you have questions on that, please ask. You don't want to have a tape attached to you, okay, because it makes a bunch of noise as you're walking around. The tape is usually on a rope. We keep it on the camera cart or very near the camera or in the AKS little section. That's a good place for that, because when we need to do marks, we need the tape. But we only do marks during rehearsals and things like that. We don't need tape on us all the time. When we're done with the scene and you got the okay that we are moving on to a new scene completely, you want to make sure you get that word that we're moving on. Then you want to make sure that you pull all the marks, right? We don't want everyone to leave tape all around the place that we're filming it. You got to pull those tape marks. I will show you how to rip the tape off. It's very hard to see, but on this orange roll of tape up in the top of the picture there of the tape roll, you can kind of see that there's kind of a triangle on the tape edge. That's the way you should tear the tape off. So that way, every time you grab a new piece of tape, there is a tab already built onto it. So that way, when you need to take the tape off the ground, there's also a tab to pull it from the ground. So remind me to show you that. I'm sure I will. We'll do that when we do the prep day. Alternatives to tape: if you're outside, you can use chalk. And there's also these little T marks, these little T square looking things you can get from like Home Depot, and you can drop those on grass, and those are good marks when you're in grass or dirt or gravel or something like that. Anytime we change anything to the camera, it's your job to go get it from wherever it is, right? So if we're changing a lens, it's your job to go get the new lens from the case and then walk the new lens over to the first AC. You'll make a lens exchange just like that. We will cover that in class so that you understand how to make that exchange, because these lenses are $4,000 or $5,000 a piece. We can't have a lens ever drop and hit the ground, so we got to make sure that we're doing that correctly. Okay? You retrieve all of that stuff. If we're swapping out batteries, if we're swapping out the follow focus, if we're going from wireless follow focus to studio follow focus, if whatever it is we're doing, we're going from wired to wireless video tap, whatever it is, you need to be the one that's doing that, okay? When you grab a lens, there's a certain way to exchange it, which we'll go over. When you bring the lens to them, you leave the caps in the case, and the lens should be set to the wide open f-stop, whatever the wide open, or t-stop, the wide open t-stop, whatever it is on that lens, it should be wide open, and the focus should be set to infinity when you hand it over. That way, when you put it on the camera, when the first AC puts it on the camera, it's wide open so we can see stuff, and it's focused at infinity, which means it'll probably be pretty close to in focus on something. Okay, so that's how you put a lens on a camera. It should always be cleaned. There should be no caps. And if we had a hard mat or a donut, which we'll talk about, you would bring that stuff as well. We do have a donut, but I don't think we need it. And we don't have hard mats. But I can explain to you what those all are. And then you'll take the other lens, go back to the case, and put the lens away. Make sure it's clean, and you'll put the caps back on it and put it away. If you are going to leave the top of that case open, that's totally fine. If you do close the case, you need to latch at least one latch on that case. You never have a case closed with camera gear in it without at least one latch or one zipper or something latched, because you don't want somebody to walk by to like pick that case up and move it, and that case open up with that thousands of dollars worth of equipment, having it roll all over the floor. So if you have a case closed, it's got to be latched at least with one latch closed. If you do it the other way, if you're not going to latch something, you can leave it open and then come back to it and close it then. Okay? You won't be worrying about SD card changes. If we do change an SD card, though, you don't have to worry about the exchange. That's first AD and first AC. But you do need to change your camera report. So if an old SD card comes out and it's used, that camera report, a copy of it should go with that card, and you need to start a new camera report. Okay? Again, latching the cases. So I just talked about that. You want to make sure that the cases, if the top is closed, we have a latch closed. If you leave it open, that's fine too, but we don't do that very often. You're going to help with the first AC in pulling focus. So a lot of times it's the second AC that's going to walk the tape measure out to the actor. Usually whoever you're focusing on, you try to hold the tape measure very close to like where their eye would be. You don't hold it up to their eye, but you just hold it kind of where their eye would be. And that helps the focus puller get their marks so that they can pull focus. When we're moving the camera from point A to point B, you're part of that process, helping them. Sometimes the tripod and the camera get separated, and then we move both, and then we put it back together. Sometimes it gets moved as one piece, but that's part of your responsibility. And then also setting up Video Tap and Video Village. So Video Village is where the director and the sound people and everybody watch from a distance. So it's a video monitor. It's your responsibility to get that monitor moved to wherever it's got to go for that particular scene or that particular shot. And sometimes we'll be wired, so you'll have to run a wire from the camera to that monitor. And sometimes we'll be wireless, and sometimes we can be both. Sometimes we will have the cable ran to a big monitor, and then we'll have a small monitor that we have wirelessly being, transmitted to, and you're supposed to run it all. You run all the video tabs that we do, okay? At the cart, so your job, it's the first AC's kind of system as to how we set it up, unless they give that responsibility to you, but it's your job to keep that cart clean and make sure it's all organized. So when there is any downtime, there should be work to be done, right? So if there's downtime, we are cleaning the cart, organizing the cart. Also, downtime would be a time to ask questions and learn stuff. This is also a class, right? So asking questions about things you were thinking about or want to know what they're doing or why they're doing this or how they're doing that or whatever, that's the time to ask questions when we have downtime. But make sure that our work is getting done first and we're all ready to go. And at the end of the day, it's the same kind of stuff. You're just helping the first AC. You organize the cart. You organize the room where we store our gear. You help pack the camera away perfectly, right? The camera doesn't just get thrown into boxes and bags. Don't care how long of a day it's been. Don't care. It's got to be packed away perfectly every single time. Make sure we have enough expendables. That way, if we're running out of tape, let's say you notice we're running out of the orange tape, well, tell us so that way we have a week to get you some new tape. Update any of the production notebooks or any of the things we have, and then make sure that the batteries are all packed up and we know who's taking the batteries and who's charging them, which is usually you, the second AC. You take all the batteries home and charge it, but sometimes the first and the second will split them up. But you got to make sure you have the right batteries and the right charger all going to the same place, because those batteries need to be charged. Otherwise, it makes it difficult when we come back because our batteries aren't charged. Okay, so make sure that that is happening. The wrap out is the same as the first AC, so you can go look at the end of that video if you want to see what we do in the wrap out. And again, the wrap out is what we do at the very end of the show when we're all done shooting and we're going to be packing this away for winter break, all our gear away. If you have any questions, please write them down. We're going to go through all this training day stuff and do some test shooting, and that's going to give you your first taste of being the second AC. So it'll, again, if you have questions, it's going to be a lot easier because I know exactly what to address. But all of the stuff that we mentioned here in this video, we're going to demo that too in the training day. But it's, again, a good idea for you to hear some of this ahead of time. Gives you a chance to process some questions and make sure that we're ready to go so that we can actually just use the gear as opposed to me talking to you about all this stuff before we actually start using equipment. Okay? So, again, questions, and we'll see you in the training day. Oh, real quick. These are good references. So if you're interested in being a camera assistant, these are 2 camera assistant books that do a great job of kind of laying out what it is to be a camera assistant. So forgot that I had that there, but this is a great slide to look at. Those are some great references. Grab them if you are interested in it. And again, we'll get to all this stuff in the training session. Okay?